So it's a beautiful night on fruitful road. Too much? All a matter of perspective. So, what is your perspective on things? Does nature have a perspective? Does the Gulf of Mexico say, I'm warm, and wet, and huge? Why do we have this affinity for nature? Is it because it's our very lives, because we can't live without it, obviously? But in our day to day experience, when we're driving down the road, dealing with people and situations and things that are human in the view of conceptualization and discriminating mind, intellect. I've often said, already you see, already you hear, before you say I. One of the most beautiful things you can develop in your meditation is to recognize that you're not your thinking. It becomes a lot more entertaining that way. When you're strongly identified with what it is you're thinking, it's very difficult to stop thinking and not get carried away, whether it's your shopping list or something you wish you had or something you're concerned about or worried about. Especially when there's emotion involved, right? It gets even more difficult. So coming back to nature, a tree doesn't say, oh, this limb, I don't like it over here. I should move it over here. It responds to what is just the way it is. It becomes what it is because of suchness, just as it is, this and that. Everything affects everything else. So nature is already pure. There's no defilement in nature. Nature doesn't do something wrong. We may think it does when that hurricane comes. For us, it might be wrong. But nature's just nature. Thinking, you know, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Mind is considered another organ. Not talking about big mind. I'm not talking about universal mind. I'm not talking about the bigger experience of us being in this together, but just individually, this mind is connected to these senses and these interpretations and this history and all of these things that we carry with us. Nothing wrong with it. But recognizing that you're not your thinking, like you smell something that smells bad to you or smells good to you. Do you identify with it as you? Well, maybe, you know. But again, it's just what is. So this, I'm not saying it doesn't matter because everything that we experience is information and we can use it if we're aware. But sometimes what happens is dictated by our attitudes and our thinking as opposed to what's actually happening. So learning how to, in your meditation, not become attached to I, me, and mine enables you to have a much more free view of what life is. I wasn't joking when I said it's a beautiful night on Fruitful Road. It's just that. Today, I had sort of a frustrating time. I was really juiced, sort of in a frustrating way. I was like, "Mm." And it became useful. It gave me more energy. And then I started to recognize what was important to me. So I looked out the back door onto the lake, and just for a moment, I saw a bird fly by, or the butterflies and whatever. And in that moment, clarity, just this. So it was like a breath of fresh air for me. Nature just being associated with the very essence of what we are, this connection to this purity. We are already pure. We are already undefiled. We don't have to seek it. We don't have to become it. We have to get out of the way so we can just be who we are. It's a beautiful thing. It's a teaching that is very difficult to understand because of our egos and because of our attachments to how we think things are based on all these decisions we've making and have made in the past. So bad things happen, good things. So think so-called bad things, so-called good things. But again, I'll just refer you back to nature. Nature isn't good or bad. It just is. So yeah, I've done things in the past. Yeah. And I'm part of this world experience and community of humanity. And we're in it together. And as fucked up as it is, because of the things we've done and are doing, I'm part of that. I can't take myself out of it. However, I have choices and I have responsibilities, and there are things that I can do. And by being compassionate instead of angry, by being generous instead of greedy, there are ways of going through the world that are closer to our natural state of being. Once we drop the fear, the anger, the hatred, diluted view of how things are, once we shift, it's not changing. It's not we change and we become good people as opposed to bad people. Good and bad doesn't even enter into it. It's understanding, wisdom, coming from clarity, identifying with our original nature as opposed to what we think is going on. I can't describe it to anybody. I can't show anybody the way, really. But I can be the best person I can be, just like you can, and you are. And that in itself is already moving things in a different direction. And people will look at you and go, I remember I was in an elevator one time at a job. I was doing some wallpapering in downtown DC. This is while I was living at the Zen Center. And I was just going up the elevator. And this woman looks at me and she goes, "You're no ordinary paper hanger." was the weirdest thing to say to me. I was like, okay, you know, but it was like the universe talking to me in a way. It was like she was just channeling something for me to get, you know, that I wasn't getting about myself. But it was interesting. Funny that that just came up. But, things like that happen in our lives. We're here for each other. Sangha is a community. And strangers may say that something to you that just shifts your whole way of viewing yourself. So, but you have to be open. You have to have an open heart. If you're not willing to listen, then you're not going to hear it. So we have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind for a reason. Use it effectively. Don't identify with it too strongly. Gosan Jin, the Zen master in Germantown, used to say, nothing wrong with desires. It's the attachment to them. What's the difference? Bodhisattvas don't shun darkness or ignorance or the hell worlds. In fact, they jump right in. Some of us think we should avoid them. Maybe. Anyway, nature is already perfect. You don't have to strive to be perfect. You just have to get out of your own way. What do you think?
And one of the lines I've been walking is trying not to get too caught up in trying to save, help, rescue someone while wearing whichever hat, teacher, mentor, daughter.
Yeah. So compassion towards oneself is part of this. One of the things that nature does for me, it brings me into that sort of compassionate self-compassion space because it has no judgment about me. It's just presence and reminds me of my own presence. So can kind of take me out of that space of being distraught, which is so easy, especially when you're sensitive and a caring human being and you're on this so-called path. It can become a lot. If you're a empath like I am, it can I have to stay away from crowds sometimes because it gets to be too much. However, I'm learning how not to have to do that. I'm learning how to be in that without attachment to or avoidance or being freaked out by it. So that's a beautiful thing because I feel like I'm being more free, breathing easier, just, but shit, it happens and have to deal with it. So, yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
So nature, a woman in my community saw a turtle laying some eggs and the predator birds were circling around.
Mhm.
And so she got a laundry basket, turned it upside down, put bricks on it with a little note saying there were turtle eggs. She would take the basket off before they're ready to hatch. So another neighbor pulls me over and tries to lure me into this anger of, we're not here to interfere with nature. That woman never should have put the basket there. Friend, don't you agree? The woman shouldn't have put the basket there. And then another neighbor, yes, the basket was good. So it's just been interesting to watch people get all riled up about whether that was the right thing to do or not.
If this happens, that happens. So where does wisdom enter in? Can you save the turtle eggs? Can she save them with the basket? Actually,
Well, the thing is, once they hatch and they're little babies, they may get eaten anyway.
yeah.
Um,
And is that bad?
it happens every day. And the
Right.
neighbors that were against the basket were all saying that that happens all the time. And
So this is wonderful because this is sort of tying into what she was just talking about, you know? Yeah,
I mean, I see both sides of it. I can understand the woman who wanted to save them and felt like,
she's projecting.
yes,
She's projecting her need. It's not really about saving the turtles. Sorry. Just being honest. Saving the turtles happens before you build your property there, before you buy it into the development, before you pay for all that landscaping that's ruining the habitat. I mean, come on. You know, there's a whole lot going on there about the turtles. So I'll tell you a funny story about turtles. So we live on a lake. There's a lake behind the house, and we're very kind of natural about our space. We don't like overdo it. And we have, as much as possible, we try to encourage nature to just do its thing around us. But, you know, there's only so much you can do. It's still a development, neighbors, and all the rest of it. So after our house was built, we, of course, interfered with the turtles laying their eggs because where the house was built was where they always laid their eggs. Of course, we took their habitat. So now I hear this knocking at my front door. Oh, I'm looking out the peephole. I can't see anything, but I hear it. Boom, 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 like real deliberate knocking on the front door. I open the door, and here's a female turtle trying to get back to the lake. So I opened the door. Turtle came walking in, heading towards the back door. Opened the back door, and the turtle went out the back door into the lake.
it's amazing.
So I didn't try to save the turtle. The turtle was saving itself. I was just, okay, opening the door. I mean, there's lots, you know, people stop and pick up turtles off the road all the time and move them. I mean, that's total, that makes sense. Why not, right? I don't know if I'd go as far as putting a note and basket over the eggs,
That was extreme.
but you know, there are things you can do, and you have to decide, you know, what can I do? I love the basic question in Zen coming from wisdom is how can I help? And when that's coming from a wisdom place, it's a different experience than when it's a projection. You know, it's different because sometimes not doing is doing. Sometimes not helping is helping more. You know, how do you know the difference? So, thank you for sharing that.
It's amazing, like, I think we can sit here and say, things like the idea of nature or like, yeah, I really dig nature, or like, I love it, or I like it, or
There's still that separation.
so yeah. Well, so it, I feel a little interested in this topic because it's only been in the last few years where I really began to see and hear, you know, what that is. Of course, all of us, I think, in either a conscious or unconscious way, love and appreciate you know,
Yes.
that which out of which we came. But like the real like presence with it is like you say, you know, you can't explain this, you can't there isn't anything you did to get it, you know, it's just there. And to the turtle topic, I think that I'd have to empathize with the turtle and say, even if somebody's going to do it wrong, if somebody is intervening from goodwill, then you know, it's, you know, we're people, we have hard times, and that's what good friends are for. That's what strangers' kind words mean, you
Yeah.
know, and all those kind of things. And people may fumble over it or something like that.
Very
but
good.
at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, we're gonna do it wrong anyway.
Yeah.
But
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I see that. That's a very compassionate position.
And I have a new relationship with turtles because it wasn't too long ago. I told you I accidentally,
Ran over one.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that was not very nice. I was very torn up about that for a while.
yeah, yeah,
I've sat with this one a little bit because I live on a lake also, and so many other things, like what about the compassion for the predator? So I've taken it to this other place of like, all of them, how are they all gonna survive? This one doesn't get to eat, and then this happens, and the whole ecosystem as well.
yeah,
But just another perspective of compassion, how to look at it is.
yeah. We can't help ourselves. You know, I mean, we identify and we, you know, put ourselves in that position, but we're not in that position. You know, we're not that bird predator. We're not the prey. And what they're experiencing is not something we can really understand until it's our time. You know, we say there is no birth or death, actually. So, you know, nature, again, from the big view, yeah, is love. It's, you know, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, non-duality, they call it these days. Sounds very unemotional, but all right. Well, thank you. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining.